Thank you for tuning into One World News. One World News serves as a vital platform that brings together diverse perspectives and comprehensive coverage of global events, fostering a greater understanding of our interconnected world. In an era marked by rapid information exchange, this news source emphasizes not only breaking stories, but also in depth analysis on topics ranging from international politics and climate change to cultural breakthroughs and economic developments. By highlighting stories from every corner of the globe, One World News encourages viewers to appreciate the complexity of global issues and the shared challenges humanity faces. Its commitment to accurate, unbiased reporting helps bridge cultural divides and promotes informed discussions, making it an indispensable resource for anyone eager to stay connected with the pulse of the world. Today, we are going to discuss tariffs from a constitutional standpoint. Now, unveiling the truth, exploring presidential authority on tariffs under the Constitution. The power to impose tariffs has long been a critical tool in shaping a nation's economic and foreign policy. But who truly holds this authority under the U.S. Constitution? The question of presidential power over tariffs sparks vigorous debate among legal scholars, policymakers, and historians alike. While Congress is traditionally tasked with regulating commerce, presidents have often exercised significant influence in setting tariff policies, sometimes pushing the boundaries of constitutional authority. In this blog post, we will delve into the historical context, constitutional provisions, and landmark cases that define the scope of presidential authority on tariffs, unraveling the complex dynamics that continue to shape American trade policy today. Let's review the constitutional foundation. Tariff powers in the U.S. Constitution. The authority to impose tariffs in the United States is deeply rooted in the Constitution, serving as a critical aspect of the federal government's power to regulate commerce and protect the nation's economic interests. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution explicitly grants Congress the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, which has been the primary basis for legislating tariffs since the country's founding. This provision underscores Congress's role in shaping trade policy, ensuring that tariffs are implemented as part of a broader legislative framework rather than at the sole discretion of the executive branch. However, the Constitution also leaves room for nuanced interpretation regarding the president's role in tariff setting. While Congress holds the power to create and approve tariff laws, certain statutes passed by Congress delegate limited authority to the president to adjust tariffs in response to specific circumstances, such as national security threats or unfair trade practices. This balance of powers reflects the framers' intent to maintain a system of checks and balances, where tariff decisions involve both legislative oversight and executive flexibility. Understanding these constitutional foundations is essential to unpacking current debates over presidential authority on tariffs. As trade policies evolve in a complex global economy, the interplay between congressional mandates and executive action continues to shape the scope and limits of tariff powers in the United States. Now let's review the historical evolution of presidential authority on tariffs. The authority of the president to impose tariffs has undergone significant changes throughout American history, shaped by evolving constitutional interpretations, economic needs, and political dynamics. Originally, the Constitution granted Congress the power to regulate commerce and impose tariffs as a means of generating revenue for the federal government. However, over time, presidents have increasingly asserted their own authority to influence tariff policies, particularly in matters of national security and foreign trade. In the 19th century, tariffs were primarily legislated by Congress, reflecting the legislative branch's control over trade policy. Yet, as international trade grew more complex, presidents began to seek greater flexibility. The early 20th century saw key legislative acts, such as the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 and the Trade Act of 1974, which delegated specific tariff-setting powers to the executive branch. These laws empowered the president to negotiate trade agreements and adjust tariffs in response to changing global economic conditions, marking a shift towards a more active presidential role. The expansion of presidential authority on tariffs has not been without controversy. Legal challenges and political debates have emerged over the balance of powers between Congress and the president. For instance, the use of emergency powers to impose tariffs, such as under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, has sparked discussions about constitutional limits and the appropriate scope of executive action. Understanding this historical evolution is crucial for grasping the current landscape of tariff authority in the United States. It reveals a dynamic interplay between constitutional mandates, legislative delegation, and executive initiative that continues to shape how tariffs are used as tools of economic policy and diplomacy today. Here are a few Supreme Court cases shaping tariff authority. The authority of the president to impose tariffs has been a complex and often contested issue throughout American history. Several landmark Supreme Court cases have played a pivotal role in defining and limiting this power under the Constitution. One such case is Field versus Clark, 1892, where the court upheld Congress's ability to delegate tariff-setting powers to the executive branch, affirming that such delegation does not violate the non-delegation doctrine as long as clear standards are provided. Similarly, United States versus Curtis Wright Export Corp. Das, 1936, is frequently cited for recognizing broad presidential authority in foreign affairs, including the imposition of tariffs as an inherent power separate from Congress's legislative role. More recently, cases like Murray versus the Charming Betsy, 1804, have underscored the principle that the president's tariff actions must align with both statutory authority and international obligations, reinforcing the need for checks and balances. Together, these decisions illustrate the delicate balance between legislative delegation and executive discretion, shaping the contours of presidential tariff authority and ensuring that tariffs remain a tool governed by constitutional law rather than unchecked executive power. Understanding these cases provides essential context for ongoing debates about the scope and limits of presidential power in trade policy. Now, let's discuss congressional versus presidential roles in trade policy. When it comes to shaping trade policy, both Congress and the president play pivotal but distinct roles under the U.S. Constitution. Traditionally, the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations, including the imposition of tariffs, falls under Congress's legislative authority. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution grants Congress the explicit power to regulate commerce with foreign nations, positioning it as the primary body responsible for establishing trade laws and tariffs. However, over time, presidents have increasingly exercised authority in this realm, often citing national security concerns or leveraging their executive powers to impose tariffs without prior congressional approval. This executive action stems from statutes like the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 and the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which delegate certain tariff-setting powers to the president during specific circumstances. The balance between congressional and presidential authority in trade policy remains a dynamic and sometimes contentious area. While Congress holds the constitutional power to set trade policy broadly, the president's ability to act swiftly through executive orders allows for rapid responses to international economic challenges. Understanding this interplay is crucial for comprehending how trade decisions are made and the limits of presidential power under the Constitution. Now let's discuss contemporary debates and implications for executive power. The authority of the president to impose tariffs has been a subject of ongoing debate, especially in the context of modern trade policy and globalization. While the Constitution grants Congress the power to regulate commerce and impose tariffs, the executive branch has increasingly asserted its role in shaping trade policy through mechanisms like the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, and Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. These statutes grant the president discretionary authority to impose tariffs in the name of national security or other specified conditions, sparking controversy over the proper balance of power between Congress and the president. Critics argue that expansive executive actions on tariffs risk undermining the constitutional principle of separation of powers by allowing the president to bypass Congress's legislative role. Proponents, on the other hand, contend that the president must have flexibility to respond swiftly to evolving international threats and economic challenges, especially given the complexities of global trade. This ongoing tension raises important questions about the limits of executive power, the role of congressional oversight, and how tariff authority fits within the broader constitutional framework. Moreover, these debates have significant implications for international relations and domestic economic policy. Unilateral tariff decisions by the executive can provoke retaliatory measures from trade partners, affect domestic industries, and influence global markets. As such, understanding the constitutional foundations and evolving interpretations of Presidential Tariff Authority is crucial for evaluating current and future trade policies, as well as for preserving the delicate balance of powers envisioned by the framers of the Constitution. In conclusion, we will discuss balancing authority and accountability in tariff decisions. Balancing authority and accountability in tariff decisions is a critical aspect of presidential power under the Constitution. While the president holds significant authority to impose tariffs to protect national interests, such power is not without limits or oversight. This delicate balance ensures that tariff decisions serve the broader economic and political goals of the nation without overstepping constitutional boundaries. On one hand, granting the president the ability to swiftly respond to international trade issues through tariffs allows for agility in protecting domestic industries and addressing unfair trade practices. On the other hand, accountability mechanisms such as congressional oversight, judicial review, and transparency requirements help prevent the misuse of this authority, ensuring that tariffs are not imposed arbitrarily or in ways that could harm consumers and the economy at large. Hopefully, this segment will help you get a better understanding of taxes and our government. This balance fosters a system where presidential tariff authority can be exercised effectively while maintaining the checks and balances. Thank you for tuning into One World News. Please like, subscribe, and share this content.